Okay, good afternoon everybody. An interesting morning, hopefully we'll have a nice healthy lunch. I'm Dean Horridge, the CEO of Fit for Sport, and always fascinates me when we come to these conferences and we talk about our health and inactivity levels, and we sometimes miss off the most important, fundamental part of change for me, which is our children. So I'm here today with the voice of children. I'll give you a little brief overview of Fit for Sport. We're the UK's leaders in educating children, young people and family through activity. I'll explain a little bit about what we do later in some of our case studies working with local authorities. I know there's a lot of local authorities here. And our passion in life is to try and engage all children. And you'll see through my presentation this afternoon, we do it a little bit different to most. We do it quite a unique way. But what we've learned over the 28 years of delivering this program is that it works. So I'll explain a little bit about, oh, that changed itself, did it? So we engage over 350 schools. We work in three ways. We basically support schools with creating an active school. And that could be helping with delivery of PE, looking at lunchtime provision, and really a wraparound care for the parents and extended schools, all focusing around getting children active. But along the way, making sure that we do what we're very good at is educating the children on the benefits of leading a healthy lifestyle. We employ up to sometimes 800 staff, so we not only support schools during the term time, we create an all year round activity space for our children. Working in the holidays, creating kids camps, all about, again, driving activity, educating children along the way. But most importantly, I know a lot of practitioners are here today, but we engage parents with our work that we do because we believe and we understand, being in the industry and obviously yourselves working with those families, it just doesn't work if you don't engage the families. So a lot of our work and a lot of our engagement is not only with the children, which is close to our hearts and our passion, but also making sure that we try to encourage the parents to come along on our journey. Some of our success stories and achievements. I'm going to have a nightmare if this keeps changing, aren't I? So we've had some great success over the years. One of our proud moments was giving us Inspired Mark after our Olympics. And I managed to do a video when we first won the Olympics, and I'll never forget this. We was all elated with winning the Olympics, and BBC asked me to do a video of a local athletics track. Now, this track was Linford Christie Stadium, some of you may know it. Beautiful facilities. And I went there on a Wednesday afternoon at 4:15 to show these camera people what great facilities we have and how we engage our next generation of gold medalists. And of course, in the stadium was 2 adults running. And around the stadium was 6 local primary schools who all struggle for space. It's incredible that we have these wonderful facilities around the UK and are just not used, mainly by children. And a stat that you can take back to your local authorities is that 70% of the best facilities in the UK are behind school gates. 70%. Those great secondary schools, those schools that with amazing facilities, we close the gates after school and at holidays. And that's something we've got to change, and I'll address that a little bit later. But the landscape, as you saw me in the last question before our morning session, was around where are we in the landscape today? The statistics speak for themselves. And some of you would have seen the Sport England Active Survey. Results 17.5% are meeting our recommended 60 minutes a day. Now, I don't know about you. I'm really concerned about that. And you notice these were released. Hopefully no one's here from Sport England today. These were released in the middle of Brexit. Surprising that, isn't it? Because they've had them for 3 months. But there's the reason why. We are in an awful situation with our children. If we can only get 17.5% actually achieving our recommended 60 minutes a day, we've got a long way to go. A hell of a long way to go. And mainly, from our perspective, it's not that complicated. But we've made it a real big issue and a real problem that nobody really wants to talk about. And nobody thinks they have the solutions. And the easiest thing to do, as you saw today, and in many conferences I talk at, is that we forget the children. And we focus on all these, these medicines and these tablets and these interventions of adults. Well, unfortunately, what I'm going to demonstrate to you today, if we haven't engaged a child, it's too late. Majority of our work with the adults is an effect of what's happening from a very early age. And I think we mentioned earlier as well about the early years setting. So a lot of our work we do in primary schools, but we're moving into a little bit of the early years setting. Some of you would know the early years settings. Most people perceive children when the parents or carers drop them off to be running around all day doing activities. Couldn't be further from the truth. The best time of day from our research and our meeting these wonderful practitioners, the best time of day for them is what? Sleep time, nap time. And let's look at the picture in primary schools. I'm an ex-PE teacher, by the way. 8 years head of PE in the primary school is my background, which is why I started a company in the first place, and my frustrations of these children coming back after a summer holiday and all our great work we're doing for the term, and these children, the same children that left me 7 weeks ago. I was like, what on earth have you been doing with these children? And you know what came back? Nothing, it's their rest time. I don't know about you, 7 weeks of a holiday and a rest time is a little bit long. And so I try to create a sort of an impression with parents that actually activity outside of school, and especially holidays, is fundamentally important for your children. And of course, we're even at a situation now in primary schools, because we work with a lot of primary schools and support them across the UK. What happens in primary schools is the children wake up and they have breakfast. Not many of them walk to school, but some do. Most get a transport of some way. And they go into school, and again, parents' perception is that children just run around on all the playtimes and they're having a great day. And of course, they're really achieving their 60 minutes a day. Of course, they have to. They're in school all day. But this is what happens. The child goes into class and is asked to sit down, do your work. It's break time. They go to break time. Looks like it's going to rain. We're not going to do that today. A bit of wet on the floor. Someone might fall over. We'll forget that. It's lunchtime. The best time of a school day is lunchtime. And I'll explain later how fundamentally important that is to children and your work, working with schools around your communities. But then at lunchtime, this is what happens. And I do a lot of work with schools around lunchtime. The children are told not to run in case they fall over. These wonderful people we still call dinner ladies and lunchtime supervisors' task are to wear an apron and carry around a first aid kit, and this is not being generalised, this is what happens in a lot of schools, and tell the children to stop running. And then we get to the equipment. Now, schools these days are told not to use football in case someone gets hit. God forbid you use a skipping rope, you're going to strangle someone. And then they go back to class. And of course, then they finish class and they go home and they have their tea and they go on these wonderful things we call iPads and devices, and they go to bed. And we wonder why we have 17.5% of children achieving our 60 minutes a day. We're setting them up for failure. And we must change. We must change, because during my time at Fit for Sport and some of my speeches, I was asked to do a conference speech at one of the biggest and highlighted fitness conferences in the UK back in 2013 I think this was. And I was up in front of 200 sports writers and fitness writers across the UK. And I thought, this is brilliant. My chance to get answers, because I get asked a question all the time. And I put a picture up of my 3 young children. I said, please, can you tell me if my children are fit enough? Am I doing enough as a parent to not worry about my children when they get an adult, that they're going to be okay? And ever guess what? It was like the room now. Of course, no one had an answer, no one had a solution, no one had any idea of how to measure children. So me being me, we created our own measurement tool. It's called the Activity Challenge. It's a fun challenge, and I'll go to a little bit later of how we use it to measure our impact. But basically, it's a fun challenge that children do. It's not rocket science, it's jump-ins, coordination, it's bouncing the ball. It's a real fun challenge for the children. And we measured 20,000 children. 10,000 in a semi-controlled environment, working with some great universities across the UK, and this is what come back. 67% of children failed to meet the recommended fitness levels of their age group. Let me explain what that means. A 6-year-old doing a star jump for a minute. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do it just yet. 67% of children failed with 20,000 children assessed. Now, this was so bad and so worrying We did it again. We asked, and we spent more money on the university just doing a little bit of data. It came back 68%, so I said, I'll go with the first one. But it shows you where we are. And still today, we use this challenge and this measurement tool to gain an understanding of how fit and how active our children are. But let me show you the latest statistics. Don't forget 2014, this is 2018, I think, statistics. We're now at 79%. 79% of children, of 14,000 children measured through our system, failed to meet our recommended fitness levels, which is our gold standard. That's what's happened in 4 years. Where are we going to be in 4 years' time? It's really, really concerning. And I know a lot of you, talking to you this morning, work with communities, work with schools. This has got to be addressed. Because the solution, which I'm going to demonstrate to you soon, is not that difficult. It really is not that difficult. But unless we do something, we are just going to have a country of inactive, overweight children, which you think now is a burden on the NHS. Holy cow, when they become adults, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble, guys. But don't worry, we have the solution. So we were given a challenge, because Dave's probably fed up of me speaking like I am today about how wrong we do it. And we were given a challenge and worked very closely with Sport England in Tower Hamlets and Sandwell. And the challenge was basically working with the public health teams in Sandwell in creating what they and I perceive to be an active school and active communities. Because they, in Sandwell, as you probably know, was 149th out of 150th in the country of obesity levels and inactivity levels. And I never forget when I first went there, it even surprised me of what I saw around a local town and what I was viewing in schools. It was a car crash. And so they really did give us a challenge. And so what we decided to do is do what we do very well, is work with the local schools, public health, and then the parents and the communities that surround these wonderful children. Because it's not rocket science what we do, but actually the impact is quite substantial. So what do we do in these boroughs? Well, we do what we do well. We go into schools and we take the apron off the dinner lady. And we say, please come with trainers and maybe a tracksuit if you've got one. Throw away the clipboard, put the first aid kit over there, and we're going to show you how to have fun and engage children in activity. So a lot of the work we do around this has to have sustainability impact, as you know, when you're getting public funds or support from Sport England. And the sustainability for us is upskilling these wonderful people that are with the children every day. Because those of you who know people that are teachers, when you become a teacher or in training, you get, if you're lucky, 6 hours of training support to then go and deliver physical activity, physical education, which is a curriculum subject. 6 hours, off you go. Can you imagine what happens in schools? Teachers do not want to do it. They don't think it's part of their job because they really only measured on math and English, let's be honest. And they have no skill subject and no support to do it. So no wonder they turn up in the playground with the class in high heels, dressing very nice for a classroom activity, having no clue what to do for the PE lesson. And that's what's happening across the UK. So we work very closely with the teachers and we work very closely with the lunchtime assistants, and we give them a little bit of confidence with some resource to say, you know what, get your tracksuit on, get your trainers, and actually have a game of tag with the children. Yes, you can run. You can run. Can you only imagine what one day when we started to do dodgeball? What a great game dodgeball is. Kids love it. Make sure it's a softball, of course. But kids love it. Dodgeball in the playground is fantastic, as long as it's managed, as long as it's done in a controlled environment, and as long as it's normally teachers or these wonderful people at lunchtime that are leading it. It's the best game ever. And so some of the statistics that came from it, one of the really important ones was 48% of the children starting to achieve their fitness levels compared to 21 at a time. Look at the difference, 48%. All because we created what we perceive to be the most important part of any education which is an active school. Because I can talk all day and you can read your own statistics about the benefits of being active. It's not just being active. And we're going to do something really weird, and you're going to hate me for it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So what I'd like to do, unless you've got a medical condition that you can't, put your cups down, computers away, and I'd like everybody to stand up. I told you you're going to hate me, didn't I? So what we're going to do is really, really simple, and this is how simple it is to work with children. What we're going to do, guys, I'm going to treat you like I do in the assembly of your 6-year-olds. Good morning. Rubbish. Good morning. Morning. Excellent. What we're going to do for 10 seconds, we're going to imagine we've got a spot on the floor. Don't step on anything. Do not step on anybody's toes. We're going to jog on the spot for 10 seconds. Are you ready?
Yes.
You're brilliant. You are. Are you ready?
Yes.
Ready, steady, go. Stop. I said as fast as you can. We're going to try that again. Remember, no one's too cool here. We're all in the same space. I'm leading by example. Are you ready? Steady, go. And freeze. Brilliant. Look around. What's everybody doing? Good. Sit down. Thank God I've seen some smiles. So what happens when you get kids active is really simple. They smile. Like you do. You're probably feeling brilliant now. You feel good about yourself. It's endorphins. It gets rid of, this drives me insane when I go to schools and they say these children are naughty. And what do? You're not going out at lunchtime. Do you know why these children are perceived to be naughty? Because those like me as a kid, it was a nightmare. I needed to release energy, as you probably can tell. I needed to release, and my way of releasing was playing sports or running around outside like a lunatic. And once I did that, I was the best tutor in the world. But if you didn't let me outside and release, like a lot of these children, it becomes a problem. Because some of our statistics show if we don't create an active playground, or when we do create an active playground in schools, 70% of incident accident rates in schools is reduced at lunchtime. Imagine that, 70%. If you know, and if you've been in a school environment, the worst time of the school day is at the end of the day for a head. Because the head does this. Oh my God, 3:30. Damn it, 6 parents. Okay, bring in the first one. And you know what 90% of those are about? Bullying, fighting, pushing, etc., etc. You know where that happens? You're right, lunchtimes. The biggest, number one issue for primary schools around this country is lunchtimes. And yet, I'm going to demonstrate to you that it's the best time of the day. The best time of the day for children in schools if you create an active lunchtime. This is what we use to measure our children through our challenge. And by the way, the challenge takes 2 minutes. And there's no pass and fail for children. There's no you're here, you're there. You're not competing against anybody else. It's a fun challenge. You do yourself and put your scores on it. It's a bronze, silver and gold. You know what you need to try to do? Improve it. Do you know how great that is for the kids? Because you know who makes the most improvements in this challenge? It's the children that are not very good. It's the children that are never picked for the teams. They're the ones who make the biggest progress. So all of a sudden, they're the heroes. Because they've gone from 22 points to 48 points. And the gold, you get more points for a gold. All those peers that you used to never pick them for the teams, etc., are now thinking they're heroes. So it's very much about the self as a child. This is not about competing against other children. The most important thing about it, do you know how they become better? You practice more. You do more activity. I'm giving away all of our secrets here, and our chair and our non-exec here today. They're going to probably kill me for giving away these secrets. But it's not that hard. It's about doing it more often. That's how children achieve and get better. But I come with a word of warning, because sport is not for all, and I'm going to take you to a very dark place. And don't worry, I'm not hypnotizing you. I'd like everybody to close your eyes. I want to take yourself back to your primary school day, and that first time someone said to you, we are going to do PE today. Open your eyes. Because there's normally 2 answers. It's, I loved it. Right? And I loved it. I was brilliant. But there's a lot of people who don't. And it's those don't that we fail miserably. We disengage more children by doing PE than we do engage. And I'll tell you why. Being an ex-PE teacher, when I went to this school, and the reason they asked me to come to the school, because they said, we have 184 kids and they don't like to be active, a lot of them. And when I saw what the teachers were doing, what those activities were doing, I wasn't surprised. Because it was set up for sporty children. Because when I went outside, they said, we're going to play a game of football. Well, have a guess who was good at that. Out of every class of 30, naturally, I'm just going to keep an eye on my time, naturally, there are 10 kids that are good at sports. 30, normally 10. Those naturally gifted children, I was lucky, I was one of them, a lot of you may be in here, also is one of those children, are always going to play the after-school clubs, the weekend activities, keep active in the holidays, and yes, get picked first for the team. And that's what PE does. And we're still today doing the same PE lessons we did 40 years ago when you had to run around the school playground for fun as a warm-up at -2 in shorts. You probably remember, some of you, those, not 40 years ago, of course. But that's what we're doing. We are creating an inactive society by disengaging those wonderful 20 children at a very early age. Because you can imagine now, there's nothing worse than me putting you all in a line and saying we've got a race. Now, I'll be quite excited about that because I think I'm still quite quick. But there'll be a lot of you thinking, what the hell? That's the last thing I wanted to do, but yet that's how we warm up children. We're going to run to the line and back. Great, I know who's going to win. James going to come first, Fred second, and I'll be last. Thanks for that. That's what happens, and that is the way we're still trying to engage our children. And then we have this awful situation. Those statistics that you heard me point out today were so small, I don't know if anybody at the back could see them, but it basically said that 1 in 5 children come into primary school obese, and 1 in 3 leave obese. Okay? So again, I say we're doing something fundamentally wrong. And what I'm saying is today is we teach children totally wrong, because all of the money, or a lot of the money that schools get, all of the focus, and we've got a new minister for PHE who believes, quote, we must get more school sport. Poof. I probably would shoot him if I was close enough. More school sport. No, guys. Sport disengages children for life. Your experience, I brought you back. Hopefully you don't need counselling after. But you can imagine and probably understand yourselves, that was sometimes a torrid time. The worst time in school. Some of you probably made excuses of why you can't do PE and why you couldn't come to PE. And that's because we don't do it right. And at Fit for Sport, what we do, and I get in trouble all the time, is we can have a line of 10 children. Each one gets a hockey stick, there's a cone, there's a ball, go around the cone as fast as you can in a minute. Ready, go! And kids go, and the balls are going everywhere, and there's crashes and people falling over. And when we say stop, the kids are like, oh, that was fun. Right? That's hockey. Now, the NGBs hate me. Because what they want me to do and my staff to do is to stand there and talk to them 20 minutes out of the 30-minute lesson about technique of how to hold the stick. I'm sorry. Because whoever's going to hold that stick and probably finish first is those 10 kids, by the way. The rest of the 20 are going to think, this is just rubbish. But if you do it as I said that we do it at Fit for Sport, everyone thinks they're brilliant. And everyone gets a high five and they think, and then later in life, when they go to the secondary school, supposedly ready, and someone says, we're going to play some sport. The majority of the children that we engage with actually don't think they're the best. But what they will say, hopefully, is, I can do that. Sure, I can have a go. I'm not going to be the best, but I can do it. Because they've already experienced that self of, actually I can. I can hold a stick and I can hit a ball. But what we actually do is we send children to secondary school in this country. And we say, right, you're going to play cricket today. or another sport involving a ball, and you can see the 20 kids that wasn't very good go, sugar. And then someone says, right, you're going to go in mid-off position, whatever, the ball comes over, it says, catch it, and they're like, ah! Poof! And the ball hits them in the face. Because what we didn't actually teach them to do is how to catch a ball. We've bypassed that. Why? Because we're playing sport. We're playing sport today. It's all about cricket. Say, hold the bat, this is where your positions are. We totally get it wrong. And you can see I'm very passionate about trying to get it right. So if you do work with schools or young children, please don't focus on the sport. I've got a video here that I'm going to show you. And this is a video if children were to actually be in charge of a school. And we did a bit of research about how they would actually have their school and what their school would look like. So let's see if we can, IT would play.
If I was a head teacher, manager, things would have to really change around here. All kids should be active. All the time, but not just once. Or twice a week, but every single day, like in the Olympics. Oh yeah. No more sitting on your watching TV. And I'll tell all the other adults to do the same. Everybody who comes to my school has to get busy. Each day will be filled with something to do. I will have lots and lots of activities that keep the kids moving throughout the day. And there will be lots of things for the little ones to do and loads of places where they can go and get active. I'll make sure it never rain at break time. All the classes like stretching to be for kids as well. And when there's no school, all the kids can come here and play games and keep active. Children don't just want to run around and around and around and around the playground. Kids want proper things to do. I'll open my doors every day to everyone. Yeah, everyone! Active kids learn more. Active kids behave better. And active kids become active adults.
So, children actually want to be active if it's fun. And I go back to what I said earlier. Fun for me as a kid was a game of tag. Some activity involving a little bit of, I suppose, competition, but actually everybody could take part. And it was really important that we create that lifestyle again for our young children because it does stay with you a lifetime. I talk to many adults in my presentations and they come up to me and say, oh my God, you're so right, that experience as a child was a disaster. And we have in this country today 12.6 of the population, and you may be some of them, use our wonderful facilities called gym and leisure facilities. 12.6. Actively, as in turn up and go, not just a member, is 5.3. 5.3 of adults in the UK use those facilities. Do you know why? Those are the 10 kids that are good at sports. As I said, it's not rocket science. But the most fundamental moment that we need to work together is making sure that we actually start with our children at the earliest age possible. Install the love of moving. Install the love of being active. But it doesn't happen overnight. And we've got a long way to go, ladies and gentlemen, a long way to go before we even stopping the decline. Forget putting the statistics back on a positive. We've got a long way to go. But unless you start with these children, we're going to come back here in 4 years' time and I'm going to put that statistic up of those measurements of children and we're going to sit here thinking, wow, Where do we go from here? And if you think of those children that are now 79% not meeting the recommended fitness challenges, are going to be as an adult, we're in a bad situation. But it can be resolved and it can be turned around, but it must start with the children. It must start with fun engagement. It must not focus on sport, and it only happens if we work together. We work with schools, but as I said, our work in schools always engages the parents. Fundamental. It's a blame culture. Parents blame schools, schools blame parents. No. You're in this together. Schools have a responsibility of 30 minutes a day to achieve of moderate to vigorous activity. By the way, to us it's very simple. It's out of breath, sweating. It's not walking. Moderate to vigorous. You've got to actually get your heartbeat up. 30 minutes in school, 30 minutes outside of school. That's the responsibility. Unless we measure and unless we get a commitment from government, we are going to come here many years to come and be failing miserably. And the only people we fail is our children. But I've demonstrated today that it can be done. And Fit for Sport work all across the UK in working with schools, with local authorities, in trying to create an environment where children can thrive. And it's not difficult. We've done it for 28 years. And we engage over 300,000 children. So if you're interested in talking to us, we've got a conference stand upstairs. Come and have a chat with us. Our information is going to be on here and the slides are going to be sent. But the most important thing is, please, in your work, in your commissioning work, in your community work, and taking everything back from this conference, which is a fantastic conference, by the way, please include children as your main focus, because that's the most impact and the change you're going to make. Thank you very much.